Responding to government RFPs can be a daunting task both for procurement professionals and the proponents responding. But what if I told you by creating a template for responses, you can make the process much smoother and a heck of a lot faster for both sides? Hello and welcome. I'm Catherine Corin, your procurement guide. And this week, we are going to talk about what can dramatically streamline your RFP process. And that is creating a standardized response template for vendors to respond to your RFP. Basically, a question and answer format so that everything is standardized and easier for getting the information you actually need and evaluating. If you've been in procurement for any length of time, you know how frustrating it can be with some of the sizes of responses or the amount of time it takes to hunt for information or where people just completely miss the mark. By the end of the video, you'll understand why building a well-structured response template will make the process easier for everyone involved. Some of the ways I've seen people attempt to fix the matter is by setting page limits or word limits. But again, not everything is the same format. For instance, resumes. Not everybody does it chronologically, not everybody does it based on job or skill. So, how do you find the information that you need if they don't explain it directly in the proposal response? So I've had situations where we have wanted them to highlight their experience and verify it with an attached resume. So here are five main reasons you want to use a template to avoid some of the pitfalls in an RFP evaluation process and proposal responses. First one is the compliance challenge. If a proponent is going to use their own proposal template or their own way of responding, they may miss some of your requirements and you'll have to disqualify them on a technicality. Now, granted, don't make mandatories difficult to meet, but by the same token, sometimes people don't really catch the mandatory criteria and they think they've complied, but you can't find it in the information. And then you may do a clarification with them, but then eventually you're going to have to disqualify them. If you had it laid out in your template, they can very easily, yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I've done that. This is where you'll find it in my proposal. Much easier for the evaluation team as well. By providing the proposal template with the mandatory criteria, formatting, and clear instructions on where to place the information, you're creating a guidebook. And it's not only helpful for you, it's also helpful for vendors who may be unfamiliar with the public sector procurement process. The second is on the evaluation efficiency. I would say this is my number one reason for giving response templates because I am guiding the marketplace as to this is the information we want to know. And it's similar to the 7 questions I ask my end users. Tell me what do you want to see from a vendor for them to prove to you that they'll get you from where you are now to where you want to be? Well, that can guide your response template to make sure the vendors are actually giving your evaluators exactly what the team needs to know, yes, they can do the job I need. They've got the experience I need. This also means every response is following the same format, and you're able to get through the evaluations as a process. You're going to see where some organizations are starting to use online tools like bids and tenders, for instance, where it is a response template that essentially the vendors are filling in the blanks or uploading what they're being asked for to submit their proposal, as opposed to just submitting a proposal. Um, the efficiency from the evaluation, everything's consistent for your evaluators. They're not hunting through pages and pages and pages of information to find what they need to score the requirements. I've had situations where they've had a 300-page proposal. And if you have 10 vendors with 300 pages, That's a lot of time, and people wonder why the evaluation process takes so long. Is going through very different documents to score the exact same criteria. Creating the response template well, like I'm not saying like you can just do question and answers and it'll work, but if you design it well, in my experience, it'll reduce your evaluation process by 30 to 50%. So then the third challenge is standardization, but not losing the customization. You don't want to box the vendors into a template that they don't show their unique side. So it has to be structured in such a way that you are asking for the information you need as a guidance, and then they supply the information to prove to you that they can meet that requirement. You can ask them, please provide a case study, please demonstrate those types of things, but you're going to have to be careful to balance the standardization of your template with allowing them a customization. So, how your template can do this is create very standard, yes, no, very dictated responses for the mandatory criteria, but designing specific areas where the vendors can describe, demonstrate, and show their unique flair and innovation. This way, you should get the best of both worlds. That you've got a standardized process that's very streamlined, but you're still allowing the vendors to differentiate themselves. The fourth challenge with the responses is the certification management. Uh, a lot of times we ask for proof of certain certifications or requirements, and the vendors will have it scattered throughout their document. So you're flipping through again, hunting for information instead of it being in a standard spot. I can just go here, there it is at the back of the proposal. So that is another really good reason to standardize the response template as opposed to just letting it be a free for all. As well, it'll help avoid the common mistake of missing certifications. If it's not a mandatory, we end up having to seek the information. And then the fifth one, which helps both sides, is collaboration and version control. If the RFP template is structured with your RFP so that you know exactly how you're going to receive your responses to meet your RFP requirements. You're keeping everything consistent on the buying side, that you're not asking for things that don't map to your requirements. And when you're going through the process with your evaluators, like I mentioned in previous videos, it'll all be consistent across your versions and with everybody collaborating on what they want to see in proposals versus what you set in requirements. On the vendor side, I've actually worked with a vendor before where they had different departments responding to different sections of an RFP, and just the formatting was all different between them all, the voice was different between them all. If it's a format of a standard response template, that whole team could have gone through version control much better, ensuring they covered off everything in the response requirements template without splitting up the work and then having all sorts of weird information in one that wasn't in another and they sounded different. It should help with their version control and collaboration as well. And basically, your template becomes the single source of truth for everyone. Let's recap why we should create response templates for your RFPs. It improves compliance and reduces disqualifications. It streamlines the evaluation and scoring with consistency. It balances standardization with the vendor differentiation. It ensures all certifications and representations are properly included and improves collaboration for both procurement and vendor teams. Remember, the goal isn't to restrict the vendors, but instead to guide them to provide the information that works for everyone. If you're not already using response templates in your RFPs, I challenge you to try it on your next one. I'm sure you will find it improves the response quality and your evaluation timelines. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Hope this is helpful. This video might be a good one to watch next.